Ahoy! Since I haven't done it yet, I want to talk a little bit about gear storage. So the system is coming out in a new patch, most of you are probably aware of it, and allows you to store 2 gear sets so far. Supposedly there will be a 3rd gear set storage option in the Season Pass. This isn't shown on the PTR yet, so I guess this is something we can only unlock once the Season Pass is actually on live. We don't know how much additional gear set storage sets will be yet, so we'll find out about that in the future. But first, let's actually look into how this thing works. So let's put on a normal gear set with no weird items here. And then we have our option here to look at the gear set itself. And we have 2 free options so far. So we can import our equipped items. Yes, and now this becomes the gear set. They're still here, they still have the logo here and everything. And I could technically, I think, also just change one item here, for example. So you want to have the playtester earring instead. And then import the equipped items here. And now it would copy the exact same loadout here, except with that one item that I changed. So you can have the same gear in multiple loadouts. But we could also say we want to have a bunch of other gear instead. And make that our gear set. And now, all I need to do is click equip. And I have the gear set equipped. And I can just switch back and forth. There are no options to assign any attribute perks or anything like that. None of the things that they were talking about regarding changing skills with it or something. It's literally just your gear. I think it would be cool if attribute points could be reassigned along with it for different sets. That would make a lot of sense, I think. But it's a starting point at least, I would say. And what we can also do here is add items to specific gear sets. We can also just add gear like this. Add to gear set and click on it. And then we have it here. Or you can say add to all gear sets. It'll appear like this. So fairly easy, very self-explanatory. I can also just drag it in like this. Literally any option you can think of. I can probably, I can even add to all gear sets from here, so I can move it here. And I can also remove from all gear sets like this, so you can very easily navigate this and assign it to one or multiple options. Likewise, you can just clear out, and this returns the items to the inventory as well, which is interesting. If we add items like this, they do actually end up in these slots, so this is stored elsewhere, technically. But it is also still kind of available as somewhat like an inventory item, so I can just drag it back over here. So if we assign the same gear set to both, we essentially have a cloned item, so to speak. But now if I drag one into the inventory, it'll still not be put back into inventory, because it tells us here this item is in another gear set or equipped. So the cloned items are just that, clones. And now I could just fill this up with this stuff instead. Or I make it easier. Then drag these over. And just import this whole set again. So definitely a lot of convenience options built in. So this is how it generally works. Now, my big concern is that we don't have any knowledge about the pricing for the gear sets, and I personally think that 2 is absolutely not enough. It is possible that at a later point on PTR, we may see changes to the amount, we may see an increase, and maybe, this is just a theory, but maybe they have just been kind of intentionally giving us a very low amount, so that we will be happy when we get a slightly higher amount after if we complain. So they're starting with 2 and maybe give us maybe 4 at the end or something. Even though that was actually their original value that they were actually planning for. But this way, people will be happy that they get more instead of complaining that they only get 4. So it may just be a little bit of, well, not reverse psychology, but a little bit of a mind game that they're playing. This is, I think, potentially a smart approach to actually do that, even though it's a little bit shady. But you know that no matter what amount of gear sets they would have put out, as long as there is a paid option, people would have said, we need more. So them starting very low might just be a tactical decision. Generally speaking, I think we should have 5 to 6 free gear sets. So maybe if we can get 4 out of the base version of just playing the game, out of existing in the game, and then another one out of the season pass, that could be a good starting point. That said, I still find it somewhat annoying that this is a monetized aspect of New World, considering the whole gear set storage part is only that important because New World has so many gear sets in the first place. If I could, I would love to just have a ton of storages and just store all my different expedition gear in there and just never have to worry about it and not have to change it every week, but just be like, oh, it's this week again, okay, cool, I can get my gear set that I haven't used in 4 weeks, but now it's time for exactly that one. And likewise, I would love to just swap between all my crafting gear when I'm just refining cooldown mats on a daily basis, and just have a quick button for that. That is probably a convenience I will have to pay for, and the big question for me in that context is, how much do I have to pay for that? If it ends up being like $2 per gear set or something, then I'm okay with that, but I have a creeping suspicion that it might be a fair bit more than that, at which point it could quickly become very annoying. I don't want to spend hundreds of dollars to have a fully capable, functioning gear set storage for everything that I could possibly want. I do hope that New World focuses their monetization more on things like the Season Pass and actual expansions, rather than making in-game features pay to win, so to speak. I guess you can't really win with this. But then again, if you quickly swap gear in a PvP situation, it could actually be somewhat pay to win as well, because you could just suddenly be in heavy and the enemy could not expect it. So yeah, I prefer if they steer in a different direction, and I hope the Season Pass is a big enough success for them to encourage them to rather drive in that direction, because I am expecting that Transmog will likely be monetized as well, considering it is cosmetics. And in that sense, I'm also hoping that they're kind of inspired by other games that have similar systems. I heard, for example, that in Destiny 2 you have Transmog, but it's a set amount of free ones per season, and then you can buy more if you want more, which I think is a reasonable approach if they do that for all of these options. But with gear set storage, I see it a bit differently, because that's just more of an in-game functionality than a vanity choice. In the next days, we're going to talk about various trading tips, as well as some other things, like for example a meta prediction if that video isn't out by then. But if you want to get the trading tips early, then feel free to support me on my Patreon, where I've already posted a ton of those over the last days. If you want to see more New World videos in the future, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you get notified when they come out. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me, and thank you for watching. DSloth, out.